Hello, everyone, and welcome to ninth grade English. I'm Miss Kuvetakis.
And I'm Miss Stack.
We both get to teach your students this year. We know that this year is certainly unprecedented in challenges and expectations around what school could possibly be. We know it is difficult on families, on educators, on the world at large. So it's really important for us that you all know that we are on a team together. You can email us. We have our phone numbers are set up with the Google Voice. We would love to team up with you to help this year, help navigate as we explore our ninth grade theme of identity. What defines us? So going into what this year looks like curriculum-wise, what we are aiming to do in English is we're going to develop a critical literacy to ask questions about and influence our world. And the first question I would ask here is, Ms. Kuvetakis, why is critical spelt incorrectly? And I would answer, good. My friend, let me fix that right after we finish this today. Then we are going to do this. We're going to look at the world critically while also practicing academic writing skills, focusing on writing style and sentence structure. So understanding that the more we gain power and agency over our language, the more influence we can have. Our first mini unit of the year was identity and values, and students kind of set off the year by coming up with a list of collective values as a class that we reflected on. And then they also reflected on their own philosophies in identity manifestos, like declaring who they are and what they value in the world and what has influenced them. So students turned these in last week, and we will return to it throughout the year to see how the different texts that we're interacting with are challenging or affirming their values that they put there.
All right, and our first novel of the year is The Poet X. Our lovely ninth graders just started reading that this week. This is a story that uses poetic style. So those of you who are familiar with poetry, this is almost like a form of slam poetry, the way that she's written this whole novel. So in this book, it focuses on voice and identity by having us think about how we are able to have different forces prevent us from having our own authentic voice. And then we're also focusing on the question, how do individuals learn to find and love their voice? So for this novel, our final products that we will be working on is a poem anthology and then also a literary analysis essay.
All right, after we finish our study of The Poet X, we're going to go into Resistance and Identity with The Raisin in the Sun by Lorraine Hansberry. And we're going to ask the questions, what are ways people have resisted historical systemic oppression, and how do dreams influence identity? We're going to explore this play in context of racist policies, of resistance, and of the budding civil rights movement that was the dramaturgical background of when Lorraine Hansberry was writing, and her family's own experience navigating a Supreme Court case. The final product is they're going to have a choice response project, so they're going to have different options to artistically respond to this play, and they're also going to continue their essay work looking at theme and the message of the story.
After this, we are going to do a memoir unit. So the students will have a choice of picking one of these three books. It's Trevor Noah, Educated, and Funny in Farsi. So For this one, they're reflecting on when we encounter other people to define us, how do we define ourselves? And also, how can we define ourselves through storytelling and narrative? So again, students will choose from 3 of these memoirs, and we're going to read it almost like a book club style. And they'll be meeting in small groups to discuss each of these novels individually. And then the final product is they'll be writing their own personal memoir.
The memoir unit, we are going to look at community and identity with Tommy Orange's There. Tommy Orange is an Oakland-based writer. We're looking at how does one come to see themselves as part of a community, and why are some types of stories told more than others in a culture. So this particular book follows 12 stories from Native communities whose lines converge at a big Oakland powwow. Our final product, again, there will be a choice response project, so they'll be able to respond artistically to the book. We're also going to do a character analysis essay. And silly Prezi, keep us going, buddy. Okay, take it, Miss Steph.
The next book we'll be reading is the 57 Bus. So for this book, we're focusing on oppression identities. We're looking at the questions, how does bias interact with race and gender identity? And in what ways does the criminal justice system echo other parts of society? So this is about a 2013 case in Oakland, and it generated a lot of international attention. And then the students will be working on a final product where they're writing letters to different legislators.
And then we'll end the year looking at culture and identity, asking ourselves, or looking at the novel Patron Saints of Nothing. This is also a Bay Area writer, so with 57 Bus, Patron Saints of Nothing, and There, we are all looking at local writers. We're asking ourselves, to what extent does culture of origin influence our identity, and how can understanding social justice issues in other countries eliminate those in our own? This is a coming of age story of a Filipino American visiting the Philippines and reflecting on family and culture in his identity. This final product, Ms. Stack and I are still talking about. It is still in the works as to what kind of ways we want students to engage with that. So stay tuned. Before we look at our grading, just a quick overview. I went over this, me and Ms. Stack went over our collages in more detail with students. I think it's important for parents to get the gist of who we are as well, since we are with your students. I went to UC Berkeley for my undergrad and studied theater and comparative literature. So SPA is really a marriage of my loves for those things. And I got my master's in education at St. Mary's, looking at arts integration in literature. These are a lot of different images for culture that I consume. We will talk a lot about media in this class, but I let students know that when they write, I love reading their work. My background is in playwriting, so these are 2 plays I've written that I was lucky to get produced in the Bay Area. I tell students about Oreo Carrot Danger, particularly because it's a personal one that talks about my experience with OCD. And I know students have, we teach students with anxiety disorders, and it might help to have adults who have negotiated the similar experiences as you have. And also, as we look at all of our texts with the critical literacy this year, it's really important that students and families know that Ms. Stack and I believe and firmly hold true to our education, that Black Lives Matter, and that will be at the heart of, we constantly aim for that truth to be at the heart of what we do in education as we continue the year. Ms. Stack.
All right, I'm Ms. Stack again. I went went to college at a school called Westmont College where I studied art history and psychology. As you can tell, I love art and I love traveling in history and different cultures. And I love especially being able to incorporate that with everything that we talk about with our students. I think it's so important to keep in mind where we've come from and how that affects our culture, how that affects our identities and where we are today, and how that can also influence our conversations and where we go in the future. Miss Kuvi forgot to mention that she is having a little baby this year. So that is her big news. My big news, I just got married this last week. So that is the two big newses for Miss.
Woo! Yes, lots of big news in English. Yes, I should mention that in November is when Miss Kuvetakis will be headed on maternity leave through like end of March. So Miss Stack will take the reins as sole English teacher, and then we'll return back together in full force in April. End of March. Thanks, Miss Stack. It's very funny gaining this new identity as a mother that I can think about so much all day and then forget. So we are next going to head to cocospa.org to show the syllabus. All right, so one place where you can find the syllabus, it's in many places in the SPA sphere of digital websites. But if you head to cocospa.org, you go to who we are, go to teachers, you will see my face, you will see Miss Stack's face, you will see all your teachers' faces. And that is a great place to go to find links to everything. So like in the event that students can't find office hours, if they head to our teacher page, they can link in. Our office hours are Tuesdays, 3:30 to 4:20. It is the same link as our class. Students can come get that individual help. But you can find our syllabus, which we went over with students. It's on our Google Classroom. These are live links to all the different things they will need. Google Classroom announces what work we're doing for the week. Like in the event that a student is kicked out of class because of internet issues and they need to know what we did, Google Classroom will have not only like a list of what we did, but that's also where we'll post recordings. Summit Learning is where they actually do the assignments. So we've been learning that the first couple weeks. We are running low on time, so I am going to just highlight our grading policy. This is true of all of your students' academic classes. Math is a tiny bit different, but for English and for science for sure, this is what students are looking at. 80% of their grade are projects. So that's everything that Ms. Stack and I just talked about. All of those things that we are doing, those final products, that's 80% of their grade. Now the other 20% are focus areas and additional focus areas. And those are smaller 10-question assessments that students are doing on skills like sentence structure, like reinforcing how to close read a poem. So those are taken on students' own time, and we are supporting them in doing that with the Wednesday work. We will do a lot of like Wednesday, this is what I suggest. Here's a video of me teaching this one bit. You should now study it and continue learning on your own. SPA's a little different because we follow a rubric, a 0 to 8 continuum. So 8 means they're ready for college. 9th grade is graded with 5.5 being the A. So, right, so if they were getting an 8 right now, that would mean they're ready for college, they're ready to go. 5.5 means that they exceed 9th grade standard expectations. 4.5, they're meeting them. 3.5 is their emerging ninth grade. So you can expect they might start the year at a 3.5 and end at a 5.5. But these are the kinds of grades they will be seeing, and that's a little different than other schools, right? They'll finish an assignment and they might have gotten a 5.5 on developing theme, and then they got a 3.5 on writing conventions. So meaning that they need to proofread their work with writing conventions, but they're doing a great job in discussing a text. So that is a very brief overview of how the grading policy works. Students will be learning it more and more as we reinforce it over the year. We thank you for your time. We have on our syllabus our teaching credo and beliefs. We are just lucky to have your students as whole people in our courses, and we'll do our best in the Zoom environment to teach them that way. All right, thank you.
Thank you.